Hi and welcome to Whisky Shared. You're watching my review of Mackmyra Brukswhisky. I'm Toby and you're watching Whisky Shared. Welcome to my review of Mackmyra Brukswhisky. So I was sent a sample of this whiskey by Mackmyra and it's one I've tried before. I tried it as part of a Mackmyra tasting, but obviously I haven't shared that with you on my channel. So it was nice of them to send me this so I could actually tell you my my thoughts of this entry-level whiskey to their range. Mackmyra, if you're not familiar with them, are from Sweden. They've been making whiskey for 20 years now. And the Brukswhisky was their sole entry-level whiskey, which is no longer. They have replaced that with Mack as their sort of bottom of the range whiskey. Brukswhisky has sort of elevated to maybe, should we say, the sort of grown-ups choice of their entry level. It's an interesting whiskey that's aged in lots of different casks. It's aged in first fill ex-bourbon. It's aged in Swedish oak. It's aged in sherry barrels, and it's also aged in ex-bourbon refill casks that have had peated whiskey in them, as far as I'm aware. So what they do is that obviously they age their new make in all these different barrels of different sizes, and then they blend them together to get the unique character, which is Brukswhisky. The Brukswhisky is eloquently known as breakfast whiskey in Sweden, and it's bottled at 41.4%. Should we find out what this tastes like? On to the whiskey. Right, so I originally got to taste this for the first time at a Mackmyra tasting run by the London Whisky Club. If you've not seen that video, there's no reviews in it or anything, but it's a video of the evening. I'll put a link up there, and if you want to find out more about the London Whisky Club and Mackmyra themselves, I'll put links in the description for you. So let's start on the nose. Right, so instantly I can pick up the sherry influence. It's first fill sherry casks. There's almost like a strong wine character. I get a hint of licorice. But yeah, the wine, it's almost like turning into a hint of sort of mulled wine maybe. It's very fruity indeed. There's a hint of smoke in the background, really light, but there's a hint of smoke there. And it's interesting, I'm now getting different fruits. A combination of sort of citrus tang on the nose and orchard fruits. Maybe even sort of, yeah, it's almost like the fruits are sort of fighting for my nose. Yeah, it's really quite interesting. There's also quite a sweet, sugary note. I'm trying to think what it reminds me of. Something cooked or baked, maybe. Yeah, that's really interesting. On the nose, it isn't, I think, what most people would expect. This whiskey retails at, I think, about £35 to £40 a bottle. Yeah, it really is quite interesting. Let's go on to the palate. Okay, on the palate, it's it's really quite interesting because to start with, it's very light, a little bit sweet, but you don't get much until you swallow it, and when you swallow it, it just becomes a whole new liquid. You know, it's like a different animal. You get a waft of smoke. It's not too strong, and you also get a nice sort of prickle that sort of sweeps over the tongue. That's really quite nice. There's no dryness from the sherry, not so far, which is good. I like that, because often sherry can have quite a sort of tannic influence, and it's not too pleasant, but that's nice. Let's have another sip. Yeah, get more sweetness this time. So it's become a little bit tannic, but not too dry. The prickle isn't as strong. Obviously, you know, after your tongue has got used to the liquid, it's not going to be attacked by the liquid in the same way. But that sort of sherry note is built up, but there's a toffee note that's sort of wafting in as well, which is nice. It's not too dry on the finish. There's hardly any dryness, which is really nice, because often that's the only thing, you know, that I really pick up on a lot of whiskies, is that lingering dry wood note, and it's not here. It's really nice. It's not too sweet on the palate. I do like sweet whiskies, but this isn't too sweet. But for some reason, that sort of blend of a hint of sweetness in the background and those sort of wine/sherry notes that I'm picking up and that are lingering the most, really quite nice. It's got enough complexity for an entry-level whiskey without too much. It's the sort of whiskey that you can sit down and enjoy. It doesn't require too much thought, but yet there's enough going on to keep you interested. I like that. Let's have one more sip, and I'll give you my conclusion. Yeah, it's quite a light liquid, as you know, a whiskey that's unchill filtered, non-coloured. It's probably enough of an entry-level whiskey that I think somebody who's into whiskey will enjoy this, but it's complex enough for somebody who's new to whiskey that they might get a lot out of it. It's yeah, it's a fine dram. The finish, I'd say, is medium, because that pepperiness, it stays around for enough time, but it doesn't have that dryness, which a lot of whiskies have these days, which always reminds me of tired old casks, which yeah, isn't a good thing. So it's a fine whiskey. It's, you know, I don't know the age, so at £35 to £40 for an imported whiskey, you know, you could be getting an 8 or 10 year old whiskey quite easily from some of the big names. But I don't think this needs an age statement to back it up, because the quality of the liquid speaks for itself. It's probably one of my favourites from the Mackmyra range, and it's by far one of the cheapest. So yeah, definitely one to try if you get the opportunity, or maybe even buy a bottle. I'll see you next time. Stauncher. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not give it a like or a comment?